So Power Ranger Beast Morphers episode 19, Target Tower. A lot happened in this episode, and when I mean a lot happened in this episode, a lot happened in this episode, so I do apologize if I don't cover everything that happened in this episode because, like I said, a lot happened. So let's get right into it. So the episode opens up with what we saw last week in Power Ranger Beast Morphers, where the Rangers were mind controlled into giving Blaze and Roxy the mega super duper transporters that are a lot bigger than the usual transporters, and they look on the footage going, we don't remember any of that happened, it must have happened while we were mind controlled by them. After that, we then hear a beeping noise and the plot thread from the previous episode comes into play where Roxy placed a USB into the thing where the real Roxy was in. It starts beeping and Nate goes over to check it and he says, this thing just had its life support cut off, Roxy doesn't have much time to live, she's not going to make it, we need to find a way to save her because I don't know what I can do, there's not much I can do. And Ravi says, hey, what if I destroy the Avatar? If we destroy the Avatar, the real Roxy will wake up. And they're like, that's a good idea, but right now we need to focus on getting those transporter backs. And they rush in, and Ravi's mum gives Ravi a pep talk saying, don't let your emotions get the better of you because you need to focus on getting those transporter backs. So that plot thread picks up for the next plot thread we're going to get in the episode. And I gotta talk about that fight, because that was a really cool fight. Meanwhile, they're like, where's Devon? Devon's watching his dad's rally, and Steel butts in with a funny joke saying, hey, I want to run for mayor, I'd make a cool mayor, and Nate just brushes him off and says, hey, robots can't be mayors, remember, we talked about this. It's like, alright, and then it comes back to the serious talk saying, hey, let's get those transporters back, guys. After that, we then cut to Mayor Daniels at his rally, he's giving a big speech. While this is going on, you've got Ben and Betty on their bikes, and they've got binoculars on their head saying, this way we can see everything, which doesn't really work because you got binoculars on your head, you're just going to have a ×2 or ×4 zoom in vision of what's going on. So Ben and Betty get into antics and they ride their bikes into a car, but the bikes they're riding is the bikes we saw in episode 3, the bicycle built for two, so it's cool seeing stuff like that playing a role in the episode that we're seeing right now. So they hit a car, and conveniently Ben and Betty's antics find the rest of the transporters that all the Tronics are just sitting around in a van. I don't know what they were doing. There was a lot in that van. There was a lot of Tronics in that van. I don't know how they all fit in there. I don't know how all of them fit in there because they all just come out, a lot of them, like for a van that could fit those giant transporters and like 20 Tronics. There was a fair bit of Tronics in there, but anyway, the Tronics jump out, they chase Ben and Betty, leading it all the way to the Mayor Daniels rally, and everyone runs away screaming, and Mayor Daniels said, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to make sure everyone gets to safety, and you should do the same thing, Devon. Devon kind of sneaks off, and Mayor Daniels helps this old man with a cane who's got a sore back, he's hunched over going, my back hurts, and Mayor Daniels leads him to safety. So pay attention to what happened in this scene because it's going to be important later on. So meanwhile, the Rangers show off, they fight the Tronics, and they get to the van, but the bad guys are like, oh no, they're going to steal our transporters, what are we going to do? And Roxy's like, I've got a plan. So Ravi's driving the van along the street, and Roxy jumps in front of him, and Ravi's like, hey, it's that van, it's Roxy, not that van, it's Roxy, I'm gonna stop you, Roxy Avatar. So he gets out of the van and chases after her, and we get a really cool fight between Roxy and Ravi in this scene. They fight each other off, and it's one really cool fight scene. Ravi wins, he like uses all his gorilla strength, like he picks up a rock and throws it at her, and he then snatches off a morpher and breaks it, and then he just finishes her off with one shoot from the Beast Blaster. It's so cool, it's a really cool fight. I love the fight choreography for this fight between Roxy and Ravi. I nearly said Roxy and Blaze, but this fight between Roxy and Ravi, it was one cool freaking fight. Like, this fight was really well filmed and shot, like, it was freaking awesome. It was a really cool fight. Meanwhile, while Ravi was fighting Roxy, they did use Sentai footage of the Rangers fighting a Giga Drone. I know this scene was just made, like, mostly the pad for time because they had to fill it in somehow, because during the fight between Ravi and Roxy, they cut between this fight that they were having with the Sentai footage. It was like, they're fighting the Giga Drone, and the Giga Drone didn't really have a name. It was just a generic stock footage Sentai battle. Like, it wasn't even like themed, it was just like your generic Giga Drone that they destroyed in this episode so the bad guys can stall for time while this was all going on. So the Giga Drone didn't have a name. I know a lot of people say, what was the Giga Drone called this episode? I'm just going to call it generic stock footage number 10. That's what I'm going to call them. Generic Sentai footage number 10. So after Ravi defeats Roxy, he lays on the ground, the sprinklers turn on, and he's like, phew, I saved the day and I saved Roxy. And as he goes to stand up, it then cuts to Blaze in the van. He's like, thanks for the Morph-X, suckers, and he drives off. And we cut to the next plot device where they all go back to the lab and they're like, how's Roxy? Is Roxy back to normal? No, Roxy isn't back to normal just yet. Give it the end of the episode. She'll perfectly be fine after that. They don't say that, but you know what I mean. So Roxy isn't back to normal yet, even though they just destroyed the Avatar. So Commander Shaw says, hey, you need to find those transporters, they're out there somewhere, go find them. Also, Ravi, I'm sorry about Roxy. After that, we then cut to the Rangers being outside, and they found one of the transporters because Ben and Betty found it just lying around. Plot convenience. So the Rangers find it, and as they're examining it, Devon's father approaches Devon. Mayor Daniels is like, Devon, I'm very disappointed in you. You've been running off, you've been slacking, you don't have a job, you come home bruised and battered like you've been in fights. What's going on with you, son? You're not the same son I used to know. And he's like, I can explain. Not really, he doesn't really explain himself, but he's like, but Dad, and he's like, no buts. And then after that, Blaze and a bunch of Tronics attacks, and Mayor Daniels goes, go home now, Devon, because I should have mentioned this as well earlier. Mayor Daniels is mostly upset with Devon because when the Tronics attacked earlier on in the episode, Devon kind of ran away, and he's like, Devon, you would never do that. You would have helped those people in need. But when in reality he was, because he's a ranger. So Mayor Daniels doesn't know the secret just yet. We're working on it. So as the fight scene is going on, they're trying to stop the transporters, but things don't go according to plan because Blaze gets a hold of all three of them, and he points it at the Morph-X tower. And within that, the Sentai footage of the Morph-X tower is snapped out of existence and sent to the cyber dimension. Not only do the bad guys get the Morph-X tower, they also manage to kidnap Devon, and as Devon's getting kidnapped, he's forced to demorph in the fight with Blaze, which Mayor Daniels witnesses, and there was a few people in my comment section that noticed that Mayor Daniels was hiding behind the tree in the San Diego Comic-Con trailer we got a few months back. So to those people who caught on to that, you've got a really good eye. Props to you for catching on to that, because I didn't even catch on to that during my first watching of the trailer, and even in the live reaction and the trailer breakdown I did. So props to you guys for noticing that. So Devon's kidnapped, the Morph-X tower is taken away. After that, we then cut to the good guys at Grid Battle Force HQ, and they're trying to figure out a plan. As they're trying to discuss a plan, the pod starts beeping, and they're like, what's going on with Roxy's pod? Is she in danger? No, she's waking up, and she wakes up, and she's very thankful for Ravi for saving her, and she goes, I know everything about their plan. While I was in my comatose state, I saw everything that the evil Roxy saw, so I know about their plan, and basically we already know what the plan is. They want Evox to have a real body, and she's just explaining that to the Rangers, which the Rangers kind of know because Evox tried getting a body earlier on in the season, so I guess they forgot about that plan. So she goes, Evox is now going to have enough Morph-X to take over the real world and the Morphin Grid. We're doomed! Doomed! And that's where the episode ends. Overall, it's a pretty good episode. I was hoping they would air this episode back to back with episode 20 on Australian TV, but unfortunately they did not, and I've got to wait an entire week for the finale episode of Power Ranger Beast Morphers, so it's going to seem like a really long wait. But episode 19, what happened in episode 19 was really good. I mean, we're wrapping up a few plot threads through season 1 of Beast Morphers. They're going to tie up as many loose threads as they possibly can. Hopefully leave nothing loose and unsolved. And if it is unsolved, we'll move forward to season 2. The only thing left unsolved is what exactly Evox is and where he came from. I think that's the only mystery we need to find out, and I don't think we will find out, unfortunately, but overall, pretty good episode. I freaking love the fight scene between Ravi and Roxy. That was a really freaking cool fight scene. The fight scene they did when the Rangers took on Blaze and all the Tronics, that was another cool fight scene. And the plot moved along really nice and smoothly, and like I said, this is definitely a two-parter episode, but it can be divided to air weekly or back-to-back and stuff like that. But we'll see what happens next week in the finale. I know what happens, but I can't wait to see what happens and how it plays out, because I haven't seen any of the clips that have leaked online or what happened on German TV. I've just read what happens, but I can't wait to see what happens, if you know what I mean.